Mr. Vice Chairman and members, Senate Bill 342 by Senator Jackson provides relative to abortion, to provide for the interpretation of multiple abortion statutes, to provide for the independent construction of each separate enactment of law related to abortion, to provide for severability, to restrict certain ordinances enacted by local governing authorities, to provide with respect to the crime of abortion, to provide relative to a late-term abortion, to provide for penalties, to provide for definitions, to provide for effective dates, and to provide for related matters.
Thank you, Mia. Senator Jackson, on your bill.
So let me start with what this bill does not do. This bill does not criminalize women. And so I wanted to start with that because I know that's been a huge debate and there was a lot of confusion when I started receiving emails on this bill. That was a separate bill, so I wanted to put that on the record. What this bill does do is go into our laws and make sure all of our laws are aligned, that we've passed all of our pro-life laws. It has a severability, I call it severability clause, which means that if one of our laws is declared unconstitutional, the other laws will not be declared unconstitutional. It does add criminal provisions for those performing illegal procedures in our state. Not the woman, but the physician who selects to not obey the law of this state. Also, because I know I have some amendments that's going to put it in its proper posture, but it will not change the content of the bill. This bill adds the trigger law and regarding if Roe versus Wade is overturned, and it clarifies that trigger law.
The amendment set consists of a total of 9 amendments that go as follows. Amendment number 1 is technical in nature. Amendment number 2 restricts political subdivisions from authorizing or regulating abortion. Amendment 3 includes certain emergency contraceptives in the listing of drugs, chemicals, and contraceptive measures to be mentioned in proposed law. Amendment number 4 inserts a statutory effectiveness provision. Amendment number 5 includes certain emergency contraceptives in the listing of drugs, chemicals, and other measures mentioned in proposed law. Amendment 6 inserts a statutory effectiveness provision. Amendment 7 is technical in nature. Amendment 8 inserts a statutory provision regarding Dobbs versus Jackson's Women's Health Organization. And Amendment 9 is technical in nature. And this concludes the extent of the amendment set.
Without not seeing or hearing any objection, the amendments were adopted. Sir?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. My name is Bruce Reilly. Some of you may know me with my work with VOTE, and we're against the criminalization part of this bill, particularly because, as we know, with the criminal legal system, people who are in poverty or people who are not white often face discriminatory or unfair application of the law. So we have no faith that this would be carried out, even with the intention of the drafters and people who may vote for it. But secondly, I just wanted to point out something from a personal standpoint is, my mother was someone who was a force to give birth. She had expressed to people around her that she was in a failed marriage with someone who was addicted, and why would she bring another child into this world? And, but there was a lot of pressure and different means to get her to have that baby. And I found out about this when I was 10, and then she confirmed it for me. And, when I was 2 months old, I went into foster care for 5 years. And then I showed up in a household that had an abusive stepfather. And then I was homeless as a teenager. And I don't remember all those people who were forcing her to have that child to be there. People who might have considered themselves of a certain title, like pro-life, for instance. They weren't there when I was homeless. They weren't there when I found out later in my life that my biological father had gone to prison and had addiction issues and died when I was 12. And they weren't there when I killed somebody when I was 19 years old who had assaulted me. They weren't there when I was in prison. They never visited me in prison. They opposed my release. They opposed me going to law school at Tulane. And it's just ironic to me that the place where I was loved the most and wanted the most was when I was a fetus. But as soon as I came into this world, people had nothing to do with me. And when I went to prison, I met people just like me, who went to foster care, who were homeless, who had mothers who went through similar probably situations of trying to figure out whether they should bring a child in this world. And those people were abandoned as well. And so I think this body that cares so much about children and life, I would love to see them extend it beyond the birth and extend it throughout. Because there's people who really struggle in our community, and I don't always see the same level of interest as I do around people who are not yet born. Thank you.